Hello, very good afternoon, dear students. Today, my session is on the great writer in Russian literature and also father of Russian modern literature, Alexander Pushkin's The Pistol Shot. Alexander Pushkin was a Russian romantic writer whom most Russians consider the greatest poet and the founder of modern Russian literature. Although primarily revered as a poet, and Pushkin's prose is now seen as a significant in the development of Russian literature. It had no great audience in his lifetime, but appreciation for it has grown. The Tales of the Late Ivan Petrovich Balkin consists of five short stories. Its narrative style is rich in parody. The short tells the story of a would-be Byronic hero, Silvio, who fights a duel after his adversary misses. Silvio forces on his own shot, only to return and claim his right years later. He grants the adversary another shot. When he misses again, he humiliates him second time by passing on his shot again. And this was especially written by Alexander Pushkin in his short stories. Pushkin's inspiration for the short was combination of his own personal experience as well as the works of his piece. Pushkin himself noted that Silvio's character was influenced by the writing of fellow Russian Alexander Bestjua. And just see the characters. Uh, narrator, unnamed narrator, Silvio, the Count, the Countess, Lieutenant R. Here, the narrator of the short relates the events that takes place in the story from a first-person perspective. There is not much information revealed about the narrator as the focus of the story is R. And the next character is Silvio. Silvio is a retired military officer living in the Russian province. The short is centered around Silvio and his obsessive desire for revenge on the Count, protagonist and antagonist. The narrator befriends him. See, the narrator is the first major character, narrator, Colonel ILP. The narrator befriends him and Silvio explains to him the history between himself and the Count. He, himself and the Count. Silvio, he lives in a military outpost in a rural village of N. He is an infantry officer and often spent time with Silvio, either having a dinner or gambling. And next character, the antagonist, the Count. As the antagonist to Silvio, the Count emerges as the person who sent Silvio's life into a spiral with his involvement in the same military regiment as Silvio. By causing Silvio's jealousy, he also reveals the weakness behind Silvio's character and how weak the pursued sense of honor could be in military Russia. The Count is the tool that Pushkin uses to show how weak people in society are and how easy to change they can be. And the countess is the wife of the count. She is the minor character in the story. She arrives in the middle of the second duel with the count. And Lieutenant R, another major character. One night, after eating dinner with a group of other officers at Sylvia's house, the group decided to play cards. So that time he absently bent the corner of a card, and when Silvio changed the score, it means correctly changed the score. He began to argue with Silvio, so it means the officer. He grew extremely angry at this, and due to his alcohol consumption and embarrassment at his colleagues' laughter, he threw a brass card holder at Silvio. The objectively barely missed Silvio, who stood up and threw the officer out of his house. The officer states that he is ready to answer for the offense and expect to duel Silvio. But the next day he had heard nothing from Silvio, which shocked many of the other officers. The officer is not approached by Silvio, which confuses the rest of the regiment, especially the narrator. This is what the character in.
Just I'm now going with summary. The shot was told by Balkin to Colonel ILB, who was stationed at a Russian military outpost as an infantry officer. The officer always visit mysterious man named Silvio to play cards. Silvio is a well-known marksman. It means he was very well known in especially pistol shot. It means aiming to gunpoint and constantly practices shooting. The walls of his house are riddled with bullet holes. This is what indicates how much more he was experienced and skilled in, especially shooting. On one occasion, Silvio insulted by an officer who is new to the regiment. See here, but he does not challenge his guest to a duel, a custom as custom dictates. He is then considered to be covered by most of the officers. Here, considered to be covered by most of the officers, none other than Silvio. This particularly confuses the narrator, who cannot fathom why Silvio does not duel the officer due to his skill with a pistol. Silvio eventually explains his situation privately to the narrator. Years ago, he was an extremely popular. It means here now the conversation happened between the narrator and Silvio. Now Silvio was going to explain about his story to narrator. He was an extremely popular soldier, but was overcome with a jealousy after the arrival of a new officer. The new officer was extremely handsome, a skilled marksman from wealthy family, and was very successful with women. And the new officer is none other than the antagonist character, the Count. Silvio sought him out at a ball and whispered an insult in his ear. The officer, later known as the Count, then slapped him in the face of response, and as a result, a duel was arranged for the following dawn. The Count drew the lot to shoot first, and for and put his shot through Silvio's head. As Silvio prepared to shoot, he was extremely unnerved by the manner in which his opponent was casually hitting cherries while waiting for him to shoot. So then he decided that as life apparently was meaningless to be carefree and confident young man. So that's why he decides as a result Silvio did not shoot back, choosing not a kill a man that did not value his own life. So Silvio explains to the narrator that since that day he has been completely captivated by exacting revenge on the Count. If he had now engaged the officer in a duel or the card game, he would almost certainly have killed him, but also taken the risk of dying before being able to exact revenge on the Count. After that day, Silvio, sorry, after that day, Silvio soon learns that the Count is engaged to be married, and so may no longer indifferent towards life. This is the most Silvio has been tirelessly waiting for, and he departs from the village to get his revenge on what the character on Count. And at last, after several years, the narrator leaves active duty and lives for his country estate in the town of P. he finds a life very dull and often years for his fast life in the military outpost. After a while, his neighbors arrive, in particular a beautiful young countess, and the narrator visits them soon after. Here, the neighbors are none other than Count and Count's wife. On the wall, when he visits their home, on the wall he notices a painting of a Swiss landscape. Two bullet holes on the top of each other. The narrator, seeing this, tells his neighbor about a man he knew in the army who was an extraordinary shot, and tells the Count of Silvio. And the Count is overcome with fear and begin to tell the narrator that he was Silvio's opponent. And shortly after his wedding, Silvio claimed his right to fire his response shot. And now the Count describes that Silvio chooses not shoot the unnamed Count. Rather, he wants to draw lots for a new duel. The Count again draws the right to shoot first, but is nervous and misses, and the bullet ends up in the painting of a Swiss landscape. As see, this is very important. As Silvius aims to shoot, the Countess enters the room. Silvio takes pity on her. Instead of firing upon the Count, shoots the painting in almost exactly the same spot as the Count. Silvio again spares the Count life, yet he demonstrates how easily he could have killed the Count. Knowing he could have killed the Count, Silvio satisfies his conscience and proceeds leave the house, never to be seen again. Later, we learn later that Silvio was killed leading a regiment in a battle, Greek Revolution in combat against Ottoman forces. Thank you.